Evolution of a Nobody. Chapters 15 and 16. Kindness. Chapter 15. Leala made a tentative step toward the bathroom door. The pain on the young man's face was made more stark by the fact that in most ways he wasn't bad-looking. "Albert?" she asked. She put her head to the door and rapped lightly with her knuckles. He didn't answer. She glanced back at her sister. Raziel shrugged. She knew the look on Albert's face from her own experience. Betrayal, it seemed, knew no race. "Albert, can I come in?" Leala asked, her voice melodic and gentle. Albert tried to play it off. "You want to come in while I'm in the shower?" he asked rhetorically. "Yay, wait, no, Leala stammered. "Look, you're hurt," she spat out. "I'm an angel, for fuck's sake. Let me take care of you." "Where were you today? You were gone for hours." "At work," he snapped, not giving her the permission she sought. "Are you with a militia, or how does that happen at work?" she said through the door, her wings trembling, her hands still only because she braced the door. "This didn't happen at work," he snapped again. "Look, it's none of your business." "It doesn't matter. I'll come out when I'm clean, then do your angel thing or whatever," Albert shouted back. "Okay, then. Okay, I'll wait here," she said in a small, timid voice before she stepped back. Things were quiet for a minute, just the noise of the water. "Wait, I thought you weren't working today." Raziel said, her eyes narrowed, her rough voice hard, her heart full of suspicion. "Look on the bed," he shouted through the door. "What am I looking for?" Raziel asked a little louder than she had to. Wallet, house keys, and a pair of square cards with rectangles etched into them. "Ah, right. You learned a little about shopping while I was gone, right? Cards and not coins. Or do I need to teach you about that?" he asked. Leala glanced over at Raziel, and the demon nodded her sharp chin. "Yeah, I figured a few things out from the books, looked up a few words. I got a crash course." "Those two rectangles in there are disposable credit cards, basically. I went to work today and got an extra shift. There should be about $120 on there between the two of them. You can use that to buy yourself some clothes and hygiene items, toothbrushes, toothpaste, deodorant, clothing." "And what do you want for it?" Leala asked, while Raziel dropped the cards on the bed and stared down at them with absolute fury. How much money that was, neither one was especially sure, but they knew it took Albert all day to make it, and he came back beaten up for his trouble. "What do you mean? You've got nothing to offer. Just stay in hiding until you work out what to do. Now, would you mind shutting up? I'm trying to wash up in here, and we can talk in a few minutes, or whatever." Raziel's disbelieving stare was answer enough for Leala. It was somewhere between an insult and the greatest relief the succubus had known in quite some time. The succubus stared down at the cards she'd dropped back onto the bed, going from a look of loathing to looking at them like they were precious, holy relics. She went from looking at them to the white door between her and Albert and back to the cards again. "What do you think happened to him out there?" she whispered to her sister. "I think what happens a lot of days. When I healed him last time, there were old injuries that still hadn't healed before. What kind of monstrous place have we been trapped in? He can't be bad, so why? Leala reached down to pick up one of the cards off the bed and looked at it. "He's crying in there," Leala said in a tiny voice. "I know. I can hear it too." Raziel's pointed ears wiggled a little when she whispered back. I'll go make something. There's a recipe I want to try." Leala set the card down and made her way out of the room, closing the door behind her, while Raziel went to sit in the chair at his desk and turned it around to face his bathroom door. The water finally went off after several minutes, while Raziel steeled her heart against disappointment. Her arms were crossed in front of her chest and her legs closed firmly together, her sharp ruby eyes locked immediately onto Albert's face. "We need to talk," Raziel said immediately when he closed the door behind him. His face and legs were clean of blood and muck, but it just highlighted the injuries she could already see. "Can I get dressed first?" Albert asked, looking down at his bare feet and white robe tied at the waist. "If you want to do that while we talk, yes, but otherwise this can't wait." Raziel said, unable to completely hide the fact that she was breathing harder already. "Fine," Albert said, and went to sit on the bed. It squeaked under him, and he sank into it an inch. "I'm going to ask something. I want an honest answer. Then I'm going to apologize for asking it, and then, if everything is how I now think it is, I want to do something for you, but it requires you to trust me. Do you understand?" Raziel asked. Albert did not even a little, and said so. "Of course not," Albert snapped, his lips turning down in a little frown. "This is the strangest start to a conversation since you showed up here. Which isn't a lot, but it's strange this happened more than once." Raziel tried to smile, but her ruby eyes were serious. "Demons tend toward the blunt side, so I hope I don't offend my host by asking this. Am I a fetish for you?" "I'm sorry?" Albert did a double take and blinked several times, his mouth dropping open. "I got on the computer the other night. After you were all asleep, I looked up my race. How humans see us, me. I know why you didn't want to show me. And honestly, it's the same back home. So, is that why you're helping my sister and I? Her because she's an angel you're supposed to care for, and me because you looted me from the moment I showed up?" Albert gave her a long, steady look. "This is about the way I offended you before, isn't it? Not just what you saw on the computer. I'm not as innocent as my sister. I've also seen your eyes, and whether you're a human or an orc or a demon or what, I know attraction when I see it. So am I going to have to trade myself for your help at some point, or what?" "No," Albert answered immediately. You're beautiful. My God, you're both like something out of a character creation kit, sculpted out of the fevered dreams of a god of radiance. I won't deny it. I'm a boy and I'm young, I can't help it. But I'm not going to extort anything from you in your time of need. What's out there? Nobody should have to face. Nobody." He hung his head and covered his eyes with his thumb and forefinger. "I'm sorry, so sorry," Raziel replied. His hand was shaking, and she put her own over his knee, leaning forward to look at him. "I know being asked a question like that must sting if you want to throw me out over it. I wouldn't blame you, but please understand. I've been treated as a walking fetish for a long time. Then I found that, and I'm a slut or a monster in a world I don't even exist in. I didn't know what to think, what to say, what to feel. You've been nice to us. I'm grateful for that. I just didn't want to go through that again where I had nowhere to go or a sister to look after. And I didn't want to really start liking you, only to find you betraying me when I needed you and had nowhere else to go." "Betrayal," Albert whispered hoarsely. "I know a thing or two about that. I'm sorry I made you feel that uncomfortable. It's natural to look, though God knows I tried not to stare. This is still so unworldly to me, but no. I promise you in the name of whatever you think is trusty to swear on, I'm not that man." "Again, I'm deeply sorry," Raziel said, and then moved her hand to pick up the cards. "So, this is money to get things for us to take care of ourselves?" "Yeah, but today was my last day on the job. I quit." Albert smiled a little and winced, hissing in pain when that hurt too much. "Oh, what happened?" Raziel asked. Albert pointed out the injuries. "Someone I worked with made this happen. I can't look at them anymore. Don't worry about it. I'll find another job." "You're lying," Raziel said, and crossed her arms again to glare at him. "So?" Albert shrugged. "I'll try. That's close enough." "Albert, I want the truth, you being different and having lost your father, that's the reason behind all this?" she asked. Her wings twitched again. "No, it's also being my father's son," Albert replied. He saw her blank expression, what he took for confusion or questioning, and sighed. "Go onto the search engine I showed you, type in Nathaniel J. Lamarck, and confine your search to the last few years." Raziel did as he asked, and the results scrolled past her eyes. She went to the oldest. "Company finds cure for breast cancer." The demon read aloud. Then, at Albert's nod, she looked at the article. "Go to the next date when you're done, and keep doing that until you get up to his obituary," Albert said. "Town selected for manufacturing new drug. After clinical trials result in approval." "You don't have to read it so I can hear it. Just get through it," he said, and she began to read silently. It got bleaker and bleaker, and she finally pushed herself back from the desk and turned to look at Albert. He nodded. To me, he was Dad. I used to play games with him. He took me fishing, hiking, horseback riding. He and my mom were happy. Go read the one at the top. She went back to looking at Albert. Yeah, he was my dad. Most of the good memories I have are of him, and he did that. Then he died. He took his own life. Albert's body began to shake. He killed himself in prison rather than face up to what he'd done. This town depended on that factory, and he not only cost hundreds of lives, but ruined thousands more. Unemployment and poverty are high here, and some of the people in this town, they died because he told them to get switched to the drug he knew didn't work. And of course, again, since he's now dead, Albert bit the words off bitterly. Nobody can punish him. Leaving you, Raziel concluded. Yeah, me. I get beaten up, treated like shit because of things I had nothing to do with. I tried to show I was good, that I'm not like him, but nobody cares. I'm the bad seed. My mom got thrown out of her church group. I got kicked out of all the clubs. They can't kick me out of public school, but they can make it hell there. We can't leave because my mom can't work anywhere else. She's got a contract with the hospital. When that runs out, we're done, he explained. I didn't do anything. Not a damn thing. I just had to be his son, and I never did get to ask him why he even did it. We weren't rich, but we weren't poor either. Did he want money that badly? I just don't know, and now I never will. Albert met her ruby eyes. There, now are you sure you want to stay with the son of a mass-murdering con man? Yes, Raziel replied, and moved from the chair to the bed. She moved the cards aside and sat behind him. Her arm and wing went around to draw him into an embrace. The thick, leathery bat wing pressed against him, and her arm, strong as steel, held him tight against her body. Albert Baptiste Lamarck. His sobbing wasn't loud, but he wept against her blood-red flesh, and it muffled it only in part. What's that mean? He stumbled the question out. You're not the bad one, Albert Baptiste Lamarck, Raziel whispered and kissed his forehead. Well, that doesn't matter here, Albert said in a weak, broken-hearted voice. Raziel put her forehead against his own and said with quiet reserve, That comes to the next thing. I know you're in pain, and I would have my sister take care of you right away, but that will make this easier. But this part goes with being a demon. Soul-sucking is a thing that demons can do, but it is terribly taboo. The equivalent of rape, but we can engage in sharing, or mingling. Okay, this is sounding ominous, Albert answered, but didn't move away. Her touch was welcome, a little warmer than that of a human. He did not want to pull away from it. I want to look into you, a part of you. I want to help you a little. But to do that, I need you to open yourself to me. I'm not sure if this works on humans, but my sister's magic did, so mine should too, I think, Raziel said and scratched one of her horns. Will you let me try? What do you want? Albert leaned back and looked in askance at her. I want to see the ones who did this to you. I can fly at night. I won't kill anyone, I promise. But just trust me. Will you trust me, Albert? Raziel asked and clasped his hands in hers. What do I need to do? He asked. I guess after all the trust you've put in me, sort of. I would be shitty if I didn't return it at least some by now. Raziel snorted. Just lay back. Your pain will help me work, and I can even feed on it somewhat. Although succubi usually feed on desire, any demon can draw something from pain. All right, go ahead, Albert said, and he lay back on the bed, resting his head on the pillow. Raziel looked down at the shut-eyed boy. On the cusp of true adulthood, he was filling out well, and to endure the beatings he did, he must have been tougher than he looked. With the right training, he might have made a great warrior. Poor unfortunate soul. Not to worry, this is the least I can do. She lowered her forehead to his and opened her mind. Darkness enveloped her as she found before her an array of scenes in chronological order. Some were larger, some were smaller. If this is like other races, then the larger it is and the cleaner it is without cracks, the more intact it is. She went through her identifiers and began to sort. If he'd been a demon, he could have entered her mind as well, and this would be more intimate than the most soul-consuming sex. Every memory Albert ever had was bound up in here. He had no way to protect himself, no knowledge of mental defenses. She began to walk through it. She touched one from a little while ago as a test. He was in the shower with his legs pulled up to his chest and his head buried in his knees while steaming water burned his flesh. Lisa's line was now one of the darkest Raziel had ever seen, and unable to resist, she went to an old one she was bound to. Trading him an ice cream cone, a tiny owlbear crying with his cone on the sidewalk, and her handing him her own before waving goodbye and walking away with an older version of herself. All the memories of her had become dark ones. Raziel touched the line, and the shade of the line began bright. A cheerful yellow, a vibrant green, a romantic red, and then slowly grayed as time went forward, until the present, when it was black. The succubus went back to the most recent memory and listened to what Lisa said. The emotions of hurt and betrayal on Albert's face she could see reflected in a window beyond Lisa. Looking at his blood on her shoe, Raziel shifted a little. She caught a face. Other memory webs connected to him. A good-looking kid of wavy brown hair and a chiseled jaw, the dark-haired girl had a web of her own, which Raziel resolved to return to. She winced involuntarily at Albert's pain as he tumbled to the ground. She got better looks at their faces and made note of the names. She became faster and faster at sorting through the memories of the young man, and, conveniently enough, she found a house. Raziel grinned. "Lisa and Trevor, you'll do for a start," she thought, and then broke the connection, allowing the room to come into view. Chapter 16. The connection broken, Albert quickly spoke up. "I really don't want you going out there." Raziel smiled, revealing her row of fang-filled teeth. "Then why did you let me do that?" Albert had a hard time looking at her, but she waited in silence until he did. "You asked me to trust you. You put your faith in me even after I offended you. You sleep next to me, and you're actually nice to me. I should at least trust you when you ask me to." Raziel assuaged his fears. "Not to worry, there's no moon tonight. I can blend into the darkness. I can make it back here without being seen." Albert's lips went tight. "I really don't like it." "What if you get caught?" "Can humans fly?" she asked, her fangy smile ever so charming in his eyes for all its ferocity. Albert couldn't help but see her as a fairly normal girl in the way she expressed herself. "No," he answered with some reluctance. "Then I'll be fine, I promise," she said with confidence. "This isn't like before, a rash decision. I'll prepare for it. I know that computer thing has maps and whatnot. I'll get a look at the whole area, all the landmarks that I need. I promise I'll be safe." "Fine. Somehow, I think. If you really wanted out of here, I couldn't stop you anyway." Albert gave a little snort and a shake of his head. "Now, if that's done, could you ask your sister to come in here? This really hurts." Raziel nodded rapidly and covered her lips with her hand. "Oh, right, I'm sorry." Her wings fluttered back and forth, fanning him briefly before she shot to her feet. "It's fine," he said with a weak smile before he lay himself down again. "I think I just want to lie here for a while. This was an unpleasant day, and I'm going to need to find another job soon." Raziel left the room and went straight to where her sister worked over the stove. "Did you get what you wanted?" Liala asked, her bright blue fixed on the red of her only family. She put down the wooden spoon she was using to stir the pot, letting it rest on the rim and focusing entirely on her demon companion and sibling. "Yes, and then some. I didn't snoop much, but the fact that he shared with me was enough. I'd never done that before. He was my first." Raziel's smile was as weak as the injured Albert's. "He doesn't know what that was for me, so maybe it doesn't count. But still, it was nice, and a good test. We're safe here, and I agree with you. I have things to do tonight, but tomorrow—" Raziel swallowed hard. There was no small amount of fear in her eyes, despite her words, so much so that she reflexively put her arms up and brought her sister in for an embrace. "Tomorrow we go back to square one," she whispered into her sister's ear. The hot, demonic breath caressed the soft ear of the angel. "Are you sure?" Liala whispered. "Shouldn't we explain it to him first?" Raziel had steel in her voice when she answered, "He bled for a succubus." "A succubus he barely knows just because I've got nowhere else." "Who does that?" "Yes, I'm sure, and we can explain it after the fact." "Do it before, and he'll just try to talk us out of it." All right, we do it together. Liala answered, and rising on her tiptoes, she kissed the red forehead of her sister. Now I'll go take care of Albert. Keep stirring the stew for a few minutes while I do this. Minutes? Raziel asked, and her ink-black eyebrow rose. I'll do it slowly. I want him to enjoy this. Just don't let the stew burn. I'll be cross with you if you do. Liala stepped away and pointed a finger decisively toward the bubbling pot with the thick brown broth atop the bright red heating coil. Raziel took the wooden handle in hand, holding it straight up and down. She began to stir violently. The pot began to slide around. "Not like that!" Liala exclaimed and grabbed Raziel's wrist. "Gentle, slowly. Just keep it moving in the heat. The simmer will make everything taste better." Liala stopped. Raziel had that look. "Are we still talking about stew here?" The succubus had a big, wide grin spread over her face, and mischief sparked in her eyes. Liala threw up her hands into the air. Why me?" she asked with faux exasperation. "I'm a succubus, why not?" She laughed at her self-effacing humor and tilted her head toward Albert's room. "Go on, I can stir a pot for a few minutes without burning everything down." Liala left her sister behind without another word and closed the door to Albert's room. A bit of guilt went through her for going behind Raziel's back, a little pang in her chest that she felt should have stopped her. But that wasn't to be. Albert lay on his stomach, the white robe on, and to her surprise that sense of overwhelming hurt had faded quite a bit. It wasn't completely gone. Even without touching him or looking into his mind, she felt sure it would never truly be forgotten. But it wasn't dominating his mind. He hadn't said anything. At a loss herself just yet, she held her hand out and activated a healing spell. One meant not only to heal, but to enhance the experience. "This will go slower than before," she finally said as the white light reached his feet. "But please don't worry, this will feel very good." He nodded without saying anything. She was right. No, she was wrong. A kind of warmth, complete and total serenity, like being bundled up in a blanket by a warm fire on a cold winter night, began to overtake his skin. It enveloped him, surrounded him, and it grew only more intense the further along as the slowly expanding ball of light went up the length of his body. He sighed. The pain in his knees was completely gone. The bruises to his bones, which should have taken months to heal, vanished. His heart was pounding in his chest, but even that began to slow until it was beating at a resting pace, and within minutes he was rendered blind. But not in a bad way. All I can see is an endless light, like walking through the clouds in the sky, he thought, and felt very much as if he were in fact floating. The voice of the angel, however, could still reach him. His hearing worked. "Albert Baptiste Lamarck Mashalen Faosi Loapowasi Raziel Onani Toashi Rasenshi Loam Asha Sin Saleh." The angelic voice, melodic as any bird song, penetrated his ears, but he understood little other than his name and that of Raziel. "Forgive me," she said from beyond the radiant glow. "What I said is not something I thought I ever would. You don't know my sister's life, and in a way I didn't either. Now that I do, my gratitude is beyond measure. So what I was saying was this. Albert Baptiste Lamarck, in 2 days you've done more for Raziel than people who knew her for a lifetime. So now let us do something for you. You've been nice to me, you're healing my wounds, you're doing chores to make life easier. I haven't really done anything. A few dollars, food, and a bag to sleep in isn't anything." Albert answered, and silvery, angelic laughter reached his ears. "We may seem like we're more than we are, but we feel hunger, cold, loneliness, fear like you do. Our home has hunger. An angel or demon can starve. We can find other food sources, but in the end, we can die like you. We've been hungry before, and it isn't a good feeling. So, of course, even if it seems little in the land of plenty, this means a lot to us. We have no home anymore. I know my sister wants to try to find a way back. She wants to keep my hopes up. But while I'm with her, wherever that is, that's home. And I don't think we will ever make it. We may be with you for the rest of our lives, if you'd have us. So the least we can do is offer our skills to you." Albert recalled a time when he sat in an automatic massage chair. The warmth, pressure, the vibration, it was a marvelous thing. And this was 100-fold better. The dull aches of the day's torment was slipping away like sloughing off old dead skin with a vigorous scrub. "That's what you're doing. Why are you telling me this?" Albert's suspicious mind tingled a little bit. Because we're going to go back to square one," Leala replied. "My sister didn't want to tell you until after, and she'll probably be mad that I'm saying anything. But you should know." "Okay, I don't know what that means," Albert replied to the seemingly distant voice of Leala. "Right, no magic. You know I looked at your myths about angel visitations, and I don't recall anyone enfolded in angel light being snarky," she answered with fairly obvious annoyance. "Maybe that's why they don't visit me." Albert wasn't sure if he was shrugging or not. His entire body seemed to have blended with the light itself. Leala gave an exasperated sigh. "You're just like her, I swear." "Fine. In my world, magic is referred to as squares. I saw some of your board games. You move pieces from square to square to advance around. It's the same thing, but the squares are a diverging path of specializations. How far down each one you can go in a path is determined by birth. If you have a natural talent for summoning, maybe you can go 20 squares down there and summon powerful monsters. But if you've got low potential for stealth magic, maybe you can't ever reach invisibility magic, no matter how hard you try." "That's it?" Albert asked, more lost than before. "No. Magic potential and total limits of growth are things too. Say you have limited mana growth potential. Maybe you could reach maximum summoning squares, but never actually cast above the 5th one unless you found another mana source to add to your own." Understanding began to dawn on the floaty-feeling Albert. "Is that why you work in pairs to summon a hero?" "Yes. The power required was simply too great for any one person, so potentials are paired off to stack their skills." She explained to him, but Albert, being himself, could not resist the urge to ask questions. "So, why not just combine every magic-capable person together to summon one super-powered thing to obliterate whatever danger threatens your world?" Albert asked. He immediately regretted it because Leala's voice became full of sorrow. "Because we can't. The first law of magic that we ever uncovered was the law of diminishing returns. My sister and I double our skills. Add a third person, and it increases only by 1/3. Add a fourth, and even if they have equal power to us or even greater, and it goes up only by 1/4. Before long, you could add the most powerful caster in history, and still not gain even a measurable fraction to the whole. The more you add, the less you get. Further, you must be compatible, and it is very rare for large numbers of compatibles to exist." Leala replied to him, and he felt as if a hand was stroking his cheek, even though he wasn't sure it was even there to be stroked. "Now my sister and I are resolved to square one. We will abandon all of our skills, return to the first square, and start again," Leala said, and Albert, who could not make a face, was nonetheless aghast. "You can do that?" he asked. "Yes, if you're born with a computation of 20 squares, you can put them anywhere as you learn, but each one you learn is one that you can't then put into something else. To help protect our world, we put almost everything into summoning. It's what potentials do. It's the least we can do." I don't really understand." Albert answered her, feeling utterly at a loss. He wanted to reach out, but he could not will his arms to move. "We will begin again. We can't access world magic anymore anyway, and put our body magic into squares of learning that will help us live in your world, and also into things that will help you. It isn't without its risks, which is why Raziel wanted to say nothing. But I believe you should know. For a while we will be weak, not for long, but for a bit at least. We will be helpless as a newborn babe. We will be in your care for that time." "Isn't it dangerous to tell people that?" Albert offered the rebuking question, but beyond his view, Leala just laughed. "Before we knew you bled for us, perhaps. But I don't think it's a risk now. I think it's more dangerous not to tell you than to tell you. If it isn't too much to ask, can this school be stayed away from for just a few days?" Leala asked with a hoe. "Yes, just a few days," he answered, "if that's what you need." The light began to fade away, and his sense of his own body began to return to himself slowly, steadily, and his bedroom came back into view. "Wow, how long did that last?" Albert asked while slowly sitting up and stretching out. "About 5 minutes or so," Liala answered with a demure blush. "It felt like forever. That was amazing." Albert stood and began to stretch out, but it wasn't lost on him that she kept blushing. Is something wrong?" No, it's just that spell. Unlike the other one, I feel what my magic feels," she admitted, her face turning almost as red as her sister's. "I didn't hurt you, did I?" Albert asked while wondering if that were the case. Is a blush the proper response? "No, not at all, but it means every part of you my magic touches. I felt as if I were touching you." "Don't make me say it." "Pervert." She covered her face to hide the crimson on her face. Albert's jaw went slack. The robe did not come away to reveal it, but the poking at the fabric certainly did make it obvious. "So you were touching my, and also the, oh. That's not how that spell is supposed to work," she eeped out and then half squeaked. "I'm going to go finish making dinner. You just, stay here. We'll call you when it's ready, okay?" Liala said and scrambled out the door, slamming it behind her and unable to get that giant, boyish, happy smile out of her head. "I did not think that spell through before I cast it. He seemed so damned innocent. I'm never going to live this one down." Liala groaned in her head as she got back to the pot so fast that Raziel practically jumped out of the way. Perverts. Humans are perverts. 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 "So you had more fun than intended." Raziel began to form a fangy Cheshire grin on her face. "Raziel, shut up," Liala said, and kept abusing the stew until it was time at last to eat.